I shot my father point-blank in the chest with his own service pistol, the one he'd kept polished on the mantel like a trophy from his glory days in Nam. The bullet didn't kill him. Not yet, but the look in his eyes as he crumpled to the reunion lawn, clutching at the grass stains on his khakis, was better than any apology he'd never give. And just like that, the body I'd stolen back became mine again, the swap unraveling in a haze of blood and betrayal that no one saw coming. They say the devil's in the details, but in my line of work, it's in the DNA. Or at least, that's what Dr. Harlan Voss whispered to me that rainy night in his lab, tucked away in the bowels of a black site facility outside Quantico. I was Athena Kane, Lieutenant Athena Kane to be precise, fresh off a tour in the sandbox where I'd earned my trident the hard way, diving into hellholes no one else would touch, pulling assets out of the fire while the suits back home debated budgets over steak at the Pentagon. 28 years old, built like a coiled spring, with scars that mapped out every bad call I'd survived. I trusted Voss because he was family. Or so I thought. It started 6 months before the reunion, back when the world still made sense. My father, Colonel Elias Kane, retired, had dragged me into his web of favors one last time. Athena, honey, he'd said over the phone, his voice gravelly from too many cigars and not enough regrets. This one's for the old man. Voss needs a diver for a quick op. Off the books. You owe me. Owe him? For what? Raising me on stories of heroism while he chased mistresses and medals. For the time he let my mom OD in the guest room because she couldn't hack it as an army wife? Yeah. I owed him. I always did. The op was simple: retrieve a prototype neural interface from a sunken submersible in the Chesapeake Bay. Voss's baby. He called it a chip that could sync minds, rewrite memories, swap loyalties in the field. Counterterrorism gold. If it worked. I dove in at midnight, the water black as oil, my rebreather humming like a demon's breath. The sub was there. All right. Wedged in the muck, its hull cracked open like a tin can. I pried the case free, felt the weight of it in my gloved hand, and kicked for the surface. That's when the charges went off. Not mine. Remote. The blast wave hit me like God's own haymaker, slamming me into the wreckage. I blacked out with salt in my lungs and Voss's voice crackling over comms. Athena? Report. I woke up in his lab. Not my body. Not even close. Staring back from the mirror was my sister, Lila. 25. Soft around the edges, with her yoga-toned arms and that perpetual half-smile she'd flash to get out of speeding tickets. Lila, the golden child who'd bailed on the family legacy to find herself in Sedona, peddling essential oils and bad poetry. Except this wasn't a dream. Voss explained it later, his face pale under the fluorescence, hands trembling as he adjusted the foredrip. The chip had activated during the dive, proximity trigger. Experimental glitch. It swapped us. Neural engrams, he called it. Souls in the wrong skin. Lila's body. My mind. And somewhere, in a haze of confusion, my body housed hers. Why? I rasped, my voice, her voice, high and lilting, like a sorority girl asking for extra foam on her latte. Voss wouldn't meet my eyes. Elias's orders, he muttered. She needed out. Debts. The kind that get you disappeared. Debts. Plural. That's when the betrayal sank in, cold and final. My father hadn't just thrown me under the bus. He'd engineered the whole damn pileup. Lila had racked up markers with some very bad people, oligarchs funneling cash through Voss's DARPA grants, laundering it via offshore shells. She'd skimmed, gotten sloppy. Dad covered for her. Always did. The favorite. The one who reminded him of Mom before the pills. Me? I was the fixer, the scapegoat. The dive was meant to bury me, literally, if the charges had their way. The swap. Insurance. Put Lila in my battle-hardened shell. Let her vanish into witness protection while I rotted in her useless life, discredited as a head case vet. I played along for weeks. Holed up in Voss's recovery suite, a sterile box with a view of razor wire. Fed them lies about disorientation. Bought time to map the facility. Lila, in my body, was shuttled off to a safe house in the Shenandoah, pumped full of amnestics to blur the edges. But I knew her tells, the way she'd bite her lip when cornered, how she'd cry uncle at the first sign of real pain. Dad visited once, looming in the doorway like a bad habit. Tough break. Kiddo, he said, clapping Lila's shoulder, my shoulder, through the glass. But you'll bounce back. Seals always do. I wanted to smash his smug face then, but her hands were too small, too weak. Instead, I smiled Lila's smile and said, "Love you, Daddy." He bought it. Hook, line, and legacy. Escape was a calculus of pain. Voss's security was tight, biometrics, rotating guards, the works, but I remembered the sub-schematics, the weak points in the bulkheads. One night, during a storm that rattled the vents like artillery, I jimmied a panel with a pilfered scalpel, crawled through ducts reeking of ozone and rust, dropped into the bay from a storm drain, swam 3 miles to a derelict fishing boat I'd scoped on recon runs. By dawn, I was in D.C., dyed blonde, contacts turning Lila's hazel to mud brown, holed up in a Nova motel that charged by the hour and asked no questions. Revenge isn't a sprint, it's a demolition job. Brick by bloody brick. First, intel. I hit the dark web forums where mercs swap war stories, old SEAL buddies who'd owe me a favor or 3. Posed as a ghost op, chasing whispers on Voss's chip. Turns out, the swap tech wasn't a glitch, it was the goal. Dad had greenlit human trials, off books, to perfect it for Black Ops. Mind control for interrogations, asset flips in real time. Lila's debts were test runs, her lovers. Her marks, all guinea pigs who'd woken up in strangers' skins, babbling about shadows before they ate bullets. And me, collateral. The daughter who could swim deep enough to fetch the prototype without questions. But the real gut punch came from the files. Mom didn't OD. Dad dosed her. Barbiturates in her gin, staged to look like despair. She'd found out about Lila early, when the skimming started. Threatened to go public, blow the lid on his side hustles. He swapped her memories first, made her doubt her own mind, then finished it. I bore the blame. The whispers at Arlington. The crazy Kane kid label that shadowed my commissions. All for family honor. His honor. I hit the road west. Lila's Prius guzzling gas like a bad metaphor for her life. Sedona first, ironic homecoming. Her yurt circle was a joke. Crystal grids and trust falls for trust fund burnouts. I torched it subtle. Siphoned her accounts into burners. Left notes in her script. Time to pay up. Sis. She felt it. Wherever she was, flinches in my old body. Nightmares bleeding through the link. The chip left echoes. Faint psychic static. I could taste her fear. Sour as bile. By month 3, I was in Colorado, crashing with an ex-ranger named Jax who'd lost a leg to the same brass that promoted Dad. He hooked me up with gear, suppressed Glock, encrypted sat phone, a duffel of C for that smelled like regret. "What's the play, Athena?" he asked, rolling a smoke on his porch overlooking the Rockies. I told him the bones, betrayal, swap, the colonel who'd sold his own for a star. Jax whistled low. "That's biblical. LT. You sure you want that weight?" "Weight? I'd carried worse." "Power of a seal," I said, tapping the faded ink on Lila's forearm, where my trident should be. "We don't break. We bend, till they do." The plan crystallized around the reunion. Dad's annual shindig in the family compound outside Fredericksburg, acres of Virginia horse country, white fences, and old money, where he'd trot out war stories to uncles and cousins who hung on every lie. Lila was due back. Recovered from her breakdown, my body prepped to play the prodigal. I'd crash it as Athena the ghost. Force the confrontation. But controversial? Hell, I'd make it infamous. Leak the files mid-toast. Watch the empire crumble live on some cousin's Insta story. Dad's jaw would drop. All right. And if Voss or his goons showed, I'd bury them in the family plot, next to Mom's empty headstone. As the odometer ticked toward Virginia, the static grew louder. Lila's panic, clawing at the edges of my skull. She knew I was coming. Good. Let her sweat. Fredericksburg in July is a steam bath wrapped in humidity, the kind that clings to your skin like guilt. I ditched the Prius 2 counties out. Hot-wired AF, 150 from a Walmart lot, redneck camouflage. Bumper stickers screaming, "Don't tread on me." Dress the part too, cargo shorts, a brewer's cap pulled low. Lila's curves hidden under a flannel that smelled like thrift store despair. The compound loomed at the end of a gravel drive lined with magnolias, their blooms heavy as secrets. Security was laughable, motion lights and a rent-a-cop dozing in an air-conditioned trailer. Dad's arrogance. No one would dare breach the Kane's sanctum. I slipped in at twilight, vaulted the east fence where the oaks provided cover. The backyard was a Norman Rockwell fever dream gone wrong. Kiddie pools splashed with shrieking rugrats. Ants in Lily Pulitzer guzzling rows. Uncles firing up the Weber with stories of nom that grew taller with each course. And there, holding court by the fire pit, was Dad. Gray at the temples now, but still broad as a linebacker. His laugh booming like artillery as he clapped backs and poured bourbon. My body, Lila in Athena's shell, hovered at his elbow. Awkward in fatigue she'd never earned, flashing that lip-bite smile when he introduced her. My girl. The seal. Tough as they come. I watched from the trilene, heart hammering like a tripwire. The swap echoes buzzed, her confusion, a fog of not-quite-right memories. She didn't know it was me yet. Not fully. But she felt the wrongness, like an itch under the skin. I waited for the toast. The moment when Dad would raise his glass to family first, that hypocritical mantra he'd drilled into us since boot camp summers. Slipping through the crowd was child's play. I palmed a solo cup of sweet tea, murmured excuses to cousins I barely recognized. Hell, in Lila's face. They didn't recognize me either. You look familiar, one slurred, squinting. You related to the Kanes? I leaned in, voice a husky drawl. Distant. But blood's blood, right? By the time I reached the inner circle, The sun was a bruise on the horizon, string lights flickering to life like fireflies on steroids. Dad spotted me first, or rather, spotted trouble. His eyes narrowed over the rim of his tumbler. That colonel's instinct kicking in. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Polite venom. The kind he reserved for gatecrashers. Lila, in my skin, tilted her head, a flicker of unease crossing features I'd once called home. The crowd hushed, sensing drama.
"Perfect."
I stepped forward.
"Cap off."
Blonde hair tumbling like a confession. "Help me, Colonel. You already have. More than you know." My voice, her voice, cracked the air like a whip. Gasps rippled out. Aunt Millie choked on her deviled egg. Dad's face went the color of old concrete. "Athena," he breathed. "The name a curse." Lila staggered back. Hand to her throat, my throat, eyes wide with the static surge. She felt it then, the link snapping taut. Me and her. Her and me. The swap's dirty little truth laid bare. "You bitch," she hissed. Low enough for family ears only. "What the hell are you doing?"
"Oh."
The irony, her swearing in my sergeant's bark. I laughed. A sound that turned heads. Payback.
"Sis."
For Mom.
"For the dive."
For stealing my goddamn life. The words hung, controversial as a live grenade. Murmur swelled. Athena? But she's. Lila? Dad lunged, grabbing my arm, her arm, hard enough to bruise. Not here. Inside.
"Now."
Command voice. The one that once made privates piss themselves. But I wasn't his soldier anymore. I twisted free, smooth as a Krav Maga demo, and palmed the burner phone from my pocket. One tap, and the files beamed to every device in range Bluetooth hackjacks had rigged, courtesy of some NSA dropout. Mom's autopsy photos fudged, but close enough. Voss's emails. Wire transfers linking Dad to the oligarchs. Read it and weep. "Family," I announced, voice carrying over the crickets. "Your hero's a murderer. A traitor." Swapped his daughters like poker chips to cover his ass. Chaos erupted. Phones buzzed like hornets. Uncles cursed. Aunts wailed. Lila charged, fists flying in a sloppy haymaker that screamed civilian. I sidestepped, drove an elbow into her my gut, folding her like cheap lawn chair. She hit the grass wheezing, the seal body betraying her lack of muscle memory. Dad roared, "Enough," and shoved through the melee, face purple with rage. "You don't know shit,
"Girl."
It was mercy for all of us. Mercy? I yanked the Glock from my waistband, his Glock, lifted from the mantel during a welfare check last month. Suppressor screwed on tight. It whispered as I leveled it at his chest. Mercy like this? The crowd froze. A tableau of Southern Gothic horror. Controversial? This was nuclear. A daughter, sister, holding the patriarch at gunpoint, spilling decades of rot. Cops would call it madness, tabloids, a Kane family implosion. But in that moment, under the lights, I own them all. Voss's chopper thup-thupped in the distance, rotors slicing the night, cleanup crew inbound. Dad's eyes darted.
"Calculating."
Athena. Listen.
"The chip."
It's reversible. We fix this.
"Bury it."
For the family.
"Lies."
Always lies. I thumbed the hammer back, the click echoing like judgment. Family? You mean the one where I take the fall for Lila's screw-ups? Where Mom gets drugged because she wouldn't play along. A sob escaped Lila, curled fetal on the turf. It wasn't.
I didn't know, she gasped. Bull.
The file said different, her sign-off on the dive. Her cut of the grants. Decision time. Pull the trigger. End it messy. Risk the swap locking forever in death throes. Or drag him to Voss. Force the reversal on my terms. The controversial path. Let him live. Broken. Whispering confessions to a world that'd never believe. Humiliation over oblivion. Seals don't just kill. We dismantle. I lowered the muzzle a hair. Nodded to the tree lean where Jax waited with the truck idling. Get up, Colonel. You're coming with. He resisted. Of course, big man. Ego bigger. Swung wild. Caught my jaw with a ring that split Lila's lip.
Blood.
Coppery and hot. Trickled down her chin, my chin now. But the pain was mine. I fired low. The round punching through his thigh. Fabric shredding like paper. He dropped. Howling. The sound raw as exposed bone. Controversial shot, non-lethal, but crippling. Let him crawl. Beg. Remember the daughter he'd drowned. The family scattered, some dialing 911, others filming for the gram. Lila lunged again. Feral. Nails raking my arm. Give it back. My life. I need her in the ribs, my ribs, cracking cartilage with a wet snap. Earn it, I spat, zip-tying her wrists with the flex cuffs from my pocket. Jax materialized like a shadow, hauling Dad fireman style while I frog-marched Lila to the truck. Sirens wailed faint in the sticks, time slipping. We peeled out, gravel spitting, the compound shrinking in the rearview. Dad bled buckets in the bedliner, cursing litanies of denial. You think this fixes anything? You're the monster now. Athena. Just like her. Her.
Mom.
The accusation landed like shrapnel, twisting deep.
Was I?
The gun in my lap felt heavier than the dive rig. The power intoxicating and vile. We ditched the truck in a cornfield off I-95, switched to a panel van Jax had stashed, plates from Jersey. No questions. Voss's bird circled overhead, spotlight sweeping like a noose. I drove north,
Toward the lab.
the static in my head a symphony of screams. Lila's terror, Dad's fury, Voss's frantic comms. Reversal protocol required all three, host and donor, synced under the chip's glow. But trust? That was the real bomb. Voss would flip the switch. Sure. But on whose terms? One wrong pulse. And we'd all fry. Minds melting into a communal grave. By dawn, we hit Quantico's outskirts. The facility a concrete ward on the landscape. Jax peeled off with a satchel charge. Insurance, he grunted, while I dragged the prisoners inside via service tunnels. Dad's blood smearing the walls like abstract art. Voss waited in the neural bay. Lab coat rumpled, eyes hollow. Athena. God. What have you done? I shoved Dad into the restraint chair. Lila into the adjacent pod. What you built this for? Fix it. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the console. It's not that simple. The engrams. They're fused. Reversal could scramble everything. Memories lost. Personalities. Gone. Lies again. Or half-truths. The file said 80% success rate, good enough for guinea pigs. Not for canes. Dad chuckled wetly from the chair. Do it.
Harlan.
End this farce. Lila whimpered.
Please.
I want me back.
Me?
The selfish core. Unswapped. My decision. Controversial to the marrow. I holstered the Glock. Strapped in beside them. Then scramble us all. Truth serum for the soul. Voss's hands shook as he initiated. The chip humming to life. Blue arcs dancing like St. Elmo's fire. Pain bloomed, white hot. Neural fireworks exploding behind my eyes. Flashes. Mom's last plea. Dad's syringe hand. Lila's first skim. My dive into the black. Betrayals layered like sedimentary rock.
Crushing.
But as the swap tugged, pulling Lila's essence back to her shell, something snagged. A buried code. Voss's failsafe. Dad's eyes met mine across the glow. Triumph. Not terror. You really think I'd let you in? He rasped. The arcs surged. Not reversing, but amplifying. Mine's bleeding. Not swapping, merging. The merge hit like a frag grenade in a confessional, shards of self-splintering, reforming in grotesque mosaic. I saw through Lila's eyes first, her Sedona sunrises stained with guilt, the thrill of the first wire transfer, the panic when the Russians called collect. Then Dad's, foxholes in Nam blurring into boardrooms. Mom's laugh echoing hollow as he palmed the pills. Voss's regrets layered in, ambition's acid etch. The chip born from a son's coma, twisted into weapon. And mine, the seal dives, clean and cold, now muddied with their filth. We were a hydra now, for heads snarling in one skull, but the body, still Lila's, frail and furious. Voss yanked the leads, face ashen. Abort. Overload. Too late. The static crested, a psychic tsunami, and we screamed, a chorus of Cain's unraveling. Dad's will clamped down first, iron discipline flooding my veins like rock gut. Fight it, girl. His voice boomed in my head. Not mine. You're Cain. Act like it. Lila whimpered counterpoint. No. Make it stop. Voss babbled overrides. Fingers flying. But the console sparked, fried circuits belching smoke. Jax's charge? Timed for the core. A distant rumble shaking the foundations. In the chaos, truth reversed, not a twist, but a funhouse mirror-shattering illusions. I wasn't the victim. We all were. Dad hadn't dosed Mom alone. She'd been in on the skim, early partner in his hustles, until Lila's mess tipped the scales. The OD?
Suicide.
Not murder. Her note burned but echoed in the merge. Can't fix broken blood. And the dive? My op. Yes. But I'd sign the waiver. Eyes open. Chasing Dad's nod. Betrayal? Mutual. I'd borne the blame, because I let it, the good soldier. Saluting shadows. Voss, just the mechanic. Tools in our family forge. Controversial realization. Revenge was the lie. We'd built this cage together, swapping skins to dodge mirrors. As the lab trembled, pipes groaning like damned souls, we unstrapped. Dad's instincts drove. Grab the sidearm. Cover the exfil. Lila's cunning plotted. Data dump the servers. Viral the sins. My core? Seal precision. Det core the exits. Controlled burn. Voss bolted for the bunker door. But Jax's boom hit main power, plunging us into red emergency glow. End it, Dad urged internally. His merge voice gravel over silk. One bullet.
Clean.
Lila rebelled. Run. Disappear. Like always. I silenced them. Or tried. The merge made commands consensus. A democracy of demons. We fired at Voss's shadow, the round clipping his shoulder, spinning him into the bulkhead. He slumped, gurgling.
The chip.
Destroys the user. Always did. Final twist. No reversal possible. The swap was one way. A neural black hole sucking identities into oblivion. We'd never be whole again, just echoes, haunting each other. Sirens converged outside. Feds closing the net. Dad's old strings pulling double duty. Jax radioed crackly. LT. Exfil's hot. 2 mics. We dragged Voss's keycard. Limped through service corridors reeking of ozone and fear. Lila's body faltered, asthma flaring from the merge stress. Lungs burning like bad intel. Dad pushed. Move. Damn it. We coughed blood. Spat defiance. Emerging into the bay. Dawn cracked the sky, painting the water gold and grim. Jax idled the Zodiac, outboard purring low. Load up. We tossed Voss aboard like luggage. Piled in. The merge warred as we motored out, Dad plotting counter-narratives. Lila scheming reinvention. Me charting the deep. But Unity fractured at the first buoy, whose hand on the throttle. A phantom spasm. And we veered. Clipping concrete. The engine sputtered. Water flooding fast. Sinking. Ironic. Full circle to the dive. Voss floated face down. The architect adrift. Jax hauled him. Cursing. What the fuck? Athena? But it wasn't just me. Dad's voice. Cut loose. Save the bloodline. Lila's. All of us or none. My call. Controversial salvation. We grabbed the sat phone. Hit send on the full archive, not to feds. But WikiLeaks. CNN tip lines. Let the world debate the Canes. Heroes or hustlers. Monsters or mirrors. The Zodiac listed. Cold Bay lapping at our knees. Jax swam for shore, dragging Voss's corpse. We treaded. The merge fading with blood loss, Lila's weak heart giving out. Dad's will ebbing like tide. Last clarity, power wasn't the seals. Or the chips. It was forgiveness's ghost. The one we'd all ghosted. Sorry, I whispered. Or we did. Bubbles rising as we slipped under. They fished us out at noon. Lila's body. My tags tangled in her hair. Official story. Family tragedy. Rogue op gone wrong. Dad survived the thigh wound. Spun yarns of heroism from his hospital bed. Lila? Comatose. My mind's echo trapped in limbo. Voss's lab? Scrubbed. Files viral but deniable. The reunion footage trended. Cane swap. Debates raging. Vigilante justice or psychotic break. Hero's daughter or haunted shell. As for me, the merge lingers in fragments. Dad's cigars on the wind. Lila's lavender in rain. I wake in waves, wondering whose dream this is. Happy ending? If absolution counts. Maybe. Tragic? In the blame we shared. Debatable as hell. Like all good American sins. But one truth holds. Next family gathering. Jaws will drop. And I'll be there. Whole or hollow. Trident shining.